If you are over 50 and struggling with weak glutes, poor balance, or nagging hip and lower back discomfort, the solution is not to rest more or to push through random workouts. The real answer lies in training your glutes the right way, with exercises specifically designed for an aging body that still demands strength, stability, and longevity. Your glutes are the single largest and most powerful muscle group in your entire body, and when they stop working properly, everything else suffers. Today you're going to learn 3 powerful, wall-assisted exercises that will wake up your glutes, restore your hip mechanics, and rebuild the kind of functional strength that makes everyday life easier and more pain-free. Exercise 1, wall hinge with lateral shift. The wall hinge with lateral shift is one of the most underrated yet profoundly effective exercises for people over 50 who want to build stronger, more responsive glutes. At first glance, this movement looks almost too simple to be worth your time. But do not let that fool you. The magic of this exercise lies in the combination of a controlled hip hinge pattern and a deliberate lateral weight shift, both of which target the gluteus medius, gluteus maximus, and the deep hip stabilizers that are almost always dormant in older adults who spend too much of their day sitting. To perform this exercise, stand facing away from a wall, positioned roughly 6 to 12 inches in front of it. Your feet should be hip-width apart, toes pointing forward. Begin by softly bending your knees and pushing your hips back toward the wall, as if you are about to sit down on a stool that is just slightly too far behind you. As your hips move backward, allow your torso to hinge forward slightly at the waist, maintaining a long, neutral spine throughout the movement. The key here is that your hips are doing the work, not your lower back. Think of your hips as a hinge swinging back and forth, rather than your spine crumpling or rounding forward. Once you have found that hinge position, add the lateral shift. Without lifting your feet from the floor, slowly shift your weight toward one side. Let's say the right. Feel your right glute engage and load as your center of mass moves laterally. Hold that shifted position for a 2 count, feeling the outer hip and glute working hard to keep your pelvis level. Then, slowly shift back to center and repeat to the left side. This lateral element is what separates this exercise from a basic hip hinge. When you shift your weight laterally, you are directly engaging the gluteus medius, the muscle responsible for hip stability during walking, going upstairs, and maintaining balance on one leg. For people over 50, the gluteus medius is often shockingly weak, leading to hip drops during walking, knee valgus or inward collapse during movement, and chronic lower back soreness on one side. By training this lateral loading pattern in a slow, controlled, wall-supported environment, you are teaching your body how to properly stabilize the pelvis in real-life situations. The wall behind you serves as a gentle tactile cue. When your hips reach back far enough, you may lightly touch the wall. This prevents you from hinging too aggressively or losing your balance, making the exercise completely accessible even if your confidence on your feet is not what it used to be. Breathing matters significantly in this exercise. As you hinge back toward the wall, take a steady inhale through the nose. As you drive your hips forward to return to standing, exhale firmly through pursed lips, squeezing your glutes at the very top. That squeeze at the top is not optional. It is where much of the real muscle building stimulus happens. Do not shortchange it. Stand tall, hips fully extended, glutes firmly contracted, and hold for 1 full second before beginning the next repetition. Aim for 3 sets of 10 to 15 repetitions on each side. Move slowly and deliberately, prioritizing quality of movement over speed. What makes the wall hinge with lateral shift particularly well suited for the over 50 population is its low spinal loading profile. Unlike deadlifts or squats with heavy weights, this exercise challenges the glutes without compressing the lumbar spine. This is critical for older adults who may have disc issues, stenosis, or simply decades of postural compensations that have made their lower backs more sensitive. Exercise 2. Wall-facing squat with calf raise. The wall-facing squat with calf raise is a brilliantly combined movement that addresses multiple weaknesses common in adults over 50 in a single, cohesive exercise. Standing and facing a wall, you will perform a controlled squat that demands full ankle mobility, proper knee tracking, upright torso alignment, and genuine glute activation at the bottom. Then as you rise, you will add a calf raise that challenges your balance, improves your ankle stability, and creates an additional glute squeeze at the top. The result is a compound exercise that builds strength, improves joint health, and trains balance all at once. making it extraordinarily efficient for a population that values both effectiveness and safety. Set up for this exercise by standing roughly 6 to 10 inches away from a wall, facing it. Your feet should be shoulder width apart, toes turned out slightly, no more than 15 to 20 degrees. Extend your arms forward so your fingertips just barely touch or hover near the wall. This arm position will help you maintain an upright torso as you descend into the squat, and it serves as an immediate feedback mechanism. If you lean too far forward, your hands will touch the wall more aggressively, telling you to sit back and stay tall. This self-correcting feedback loop is one of the reasons the wall-facing squat is so powerful as a teaching and training tool. Begin your descent by pushing your knees out in the direction of your toes and allowing your hips to sink down and back simultaneously. Unlike a traditional squat, where you might be encouraged to sit straight down, the wall-facing squat requires you to be more precise about keeping your chest up and your knees tracking over your second and third toes. Descend as deeply as your ankle mobility allows. For many people over 50, tight calves and limited ankle dorsiflexion are significant barriers to achieving a deep squat position. That is completely fine. Go only as deep as you can without your heels lifting off the floor or your lower back rounding. Even a shallow squat to 60 or 70 degrees of knee bend is enormously beneficial when performed with perfect form. At the bottom of the squat, pause for 1 to 2 seconds. This pause eliminates momentum and forces your muscles, particularly your glutes, quadriceps, and inner thighs, to actually hold and control the position rather than simply bouncing back up. This pause also gives you a moment to feel whether your weight is evenly distributed across both feet, whether your knees are properly tracking, and whether your core is engaged and stable. Then drive through your entire foot, heel, arch, and ball, to push yourself back up to standing. As you approach the fully upright position, continue the movement into a calf raise by rising up onto the balls of your feet, lifting your heels as high as comfortable. The calf raise at the top of the movement does several important things simultaneously. First, it adds an additional muscular demand that further challenges your balance and proprioception, your body's sense of where it is in space. This is a crucial capacity to train and preserve as you age, because loss of proprioception is a significant contributor to falls in older adults. Second, rising onto your toes at the top naturally encourages a harder glute contraction, because your body is working against gravity in a slightly different plane. Third, the calf raise strengthens the gastrocnemius and soleus muscles, which are critical for walking, climbing stairs, and providing shock absorption for your knees and ankles. Hold the calf raise position at the top for a full second, squeezing your glutes firmly, engaging your core, and maintaining your balance before slowly lowering your heels back to the floor and transitioning into the next squat repetition. The tempo of the entire movement should be deliberate and controlled. A good rhythm to work toward is 2 seconds down into the squat, 1 to 2 second pause at the bottom, 2 seconds up to standing, 1 second hold at the top of the calf raise, and then a controlled lowering of the heels before repeating. This slow tempo dramatically increases the time your muscles are under tension, which is a key driver of strength and muscle development, especially in older adults who may respond less dramatically to high repetition, fast-paced training. What truly separates the wall-facing squat from a standard bodyweight squat is the demand it places on ankle mobility and thoracic spine extension. When you squat facing a wall, you cannot compensate by leaning your torso forward. The wall blocks that habitual pattern. Instead, you are forced to develop genuine ankle flexibility and a more upright squatting posture that distributes the load more evenly between the glutes and quadriceps. Exercise 3. Standing hip abduction with pelvic control. Standing hip abduction with pelvic control is the exercise that completes this trio, and it may be the most important one of the three for long-term glute health and hip joint integrity in people over 50. Unlike the first two exercises, which both involve loading both legs in a bilateral or hinge pattern, this exercise isolates one leg at a time and forces the standing leg's hip abductors, primarily the gluteus medius, to work overtime to keep the pelvis stable while the other leg lifts out to the side. The addition of deliberate pelvic control is what elevates this from a simple side leg lift into a sophisticated, deeply effective neuromuscular training exercise. Stand sideways beside a wall with one hand lightly resting on the wall for balance support. Your feet should be together, standing tall with good posture. Ears over shoulders, shoulders over hips, hips over ankles. Before you lift anything, take a moment to set your pelvis into a neutral position, This means neither tilting forward into an anterior pelvic tilt where your lower back arches excessively, nor tilting backward into a posterior tilt where your pelvis tucks under. A neutral pelvis feels like you are gently drawing your navel toward your spine and standing in a position that feels balanced and tension-free in your lower back. This neutral pelvic position must be maintained throughout the entire exercise. It is the defining feature that makes this movement so effective. From this standing position, slowly lift the outer leg straight out to the side, keeping your toes pointed forward, not rotated upward toward the ceiling, which is a common compensation that reduces glute activation and shifts the load to the hip flexors instead. Lift the leg to approximately 30 to 45 degrees of abduction, keeping the movement smooth and controlled. The lifting itself is not the primary challenge. What truly tests you is whether you can prevent your pelvis from hiking upward on the lifting side or dropping on the standing side as the leg rises. Both of these pelvic deviations are signs that your gluteus medius on the standing leg is not doing its job properly. If your hip hikes or drops, reduce the range of motion and focus first on keeping the pelvis completely still. The reason pelvic control matters so profoundly in this exercise and in life is that the gluteus medius acts as the primary stabilizer of the pelvis during single leg stance phases of walking. Every time you take a step, you spend a fraction of a second balancing on one leg while the other swings forward. If your gluteus medius on the standing leg is weak, your pelvis will drop or sway to the opposite side with every step, creating a Trendelenburg gait pattern that puts enormous stress on your hip joint, knee, lower back, and even your neck and shoulders over time. By training the standing hip abduction with pelvic control, you are directly addressing the root cause of this movement dysfunction and rebuilding the hip stability that keeps your entire kinetic chain healthy and functional. Hold the lifted position for 2 to 3 seconds at the top of each repetition, actively contracting the glute of the standing leg to keep your pelvis perfectly level, while simultaneously feeling the outer hip of the lifting leg engage as well. Then slowly lower the leg back down over 2 full seconds, not allowing it to simply drop with gravity. The lowering phase of this exercise is equally important as the lifting phase. It trains eccentric muscle control, which is the ability of a muscle to generate force while lengthening. Eccentric strength is critical for fall prevention because many falls happen not during the powerful push-off phase of movement, but during the controlled landing and deceleration phases where muscles must resist gravity rather than overpower it. Perform 10 to 15 repetitions on one side before switching to the other. You will almost certainly notice that one side is significantly harder to control than the other. This asymmetry is completely normal and extremely common, especially if you have had any history of hip, knee, or lower back issues on one side. Train both sides equally, but pay particular attention to the weaker side by focusing extra mental attention on keeping the pelvis still and the movement clean. Over time, consistent training of the weaker side will reduce this asymmetry and dramatically improve your overall movement quality and comfort. If you found this information valuable and feel like it could genuinely help someone you know, please take a moment right now to like this video and leave a comment below telling us which of these 3 exercises you are most excited to try first. Your comments mean the world to this community and help us understand what content is most helpful to you. Share this video with a friend or family member over 50 who could benefit from building stronger glutes. You might just change the trajectory of their health. And if you have not already, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new video. There's so much more powerful, practical, age-smart training content coming your way, and every single video is designed with one goal in mind: to help you move better, feel stronger, and live with greater energy, confidence, and independence for as long as possible. Thank you so much for watching.